You walk into a room, and before anyone speaks, you already know the conversation is strained. You catch a half-second glance, a slight stiffening of a shoulder. The tension is obvious. Most people are oblivious to these signals because the human brain operates on a strict energy budget. It uses a filter, known in psychology as latent inhibition, acting as a bouncer at the door of your consciousness. It blocks out the hum of the air conditioner, the ticking clock, and the minor, irrelevant twitches of the people around you. But in some minds, that filter operates differently. It lets almost everything through. Every micro-expression, every hesitation, and every forced smile is consciously processed. Constantly decoding the people around you is exhausting. The nervous system is forced to process a massive influx of behavioral data, leaving the observer drained and isolated in a room full of people. Social groups function smoothly because everyone silently agrees to participate in a shared performance. We rely on polite omissions and practiced masks to keep the peace. When someone observes a contradiction, like noticing a coworker's supposed exhaustion is actually masked resentment, and points it out, they disrupt that performance. The group does not reward them for their accuracy. They push them away. In Greek mythology, Apollo gave Cassandra the ability to see the future and know the absolute truth, but paired it with a curse. No one would ever believe her warnings. Modern hyperperception operates the same way. You see the disaster coming, but to everyone else, you simply sound negative or paranoid. When an observer strips away a social mask, the subject experiences intense vulnerability. To protect their ego, they naturally lash out, framing the person who exposed their insecurity as judgmental or malicious. The scientific framework for this dates back to the 19th century physicist Hermann von Helmholtz. He introduced the concept of unconscious inference, the idea that human perception is not a passive recording of the environment, but an active process of the brain constantly guessing what is happening. This diagram illustrates modern predictive coding theory. The brain minimizes energy by matching top-down predictions against bottom-up sensory data. When the sensory input doesn't perfectly match the prediction, the system generates an error signal, updating your internal model of the world. For individuals with neurodivergent traits or those who have experienced complex trauma, this system runs on high alert. The amygdala demands constant environmental scanning. The bottom-up sensory data overwhelms the top-down predictions, flooding the system with error signals over details a typical brain would discard. The heightened ability to read the unspoken dynamics of a room is a protective adaptation. It is a survival mechanism running on permanent overdrive, built to detect threats before they materialize. The psychologist Paul Ekman identified microexpressions, involuntary facial movements that flash in a fraction of a second. The hypervigilant mind catches these fleeting glitches, registering an immediate data error when someone's words fail to match their physical posture. This acute observation leads directly into 3 psychological traps. The first is the accidental villain. By noticing and reacting to someone's hidden insecurity, the observer triggers an aggressive defensive response, making themselves the enemy. This enters the second trap, the detective trap. When you lose faith in what people say, you begin overanalyzing every interaction. A 3-hour text delay becomes a signal of distance. This feeds confirmation bias, where the brain only registers data that validates its darkest suspicions. The final trap is the emotional dumping ground. You watch a close friend enter a toxic relationship, or a colleague walk into a career disaster. You see the outcome clearly, but because stepping in would be seen as intrusive, you are forced to watch the collision happen in silence. Without strict internal boundaries, the capacity to decode the emotions of others yields little practical benefit. It merely leaves the observer exhausted, holding on to truths that no one else wants to acknowledge. The biological sensitivity that drives this awareness cannot simply be deactivated. Telling a hyperperceptive person to stop analyzing their environment is like asking someone with perfect vision to artificially blur their eyesight. Strategic ignorance offers a way to function. It involves gathering psychological data strictly for self-protection, rather than social correction. You observe a coworker's forced enthusiasm, acknowledge the internal alarm, and choose to let the information exist without acting on it. It requires a shift in how we view social masks. A boastful colleague or a distant relative is rarely trying to be malicious. Often, their performance is a fragile defense mechanism designed to cover up a deeper fear of inadequacy or rejection. True emotional intelligence lies in seeing the cracks in someone's armor and actively choosing not to exploit them. You recognize the mask, but you treat the person behind it with quiet dignity. This chart illustrates the required mental compromise to defeat the detective trap. If your intuition calculates a 20% chance of a relationship ending poorly, you must consciously accept that risk to experience the 80% of present joy. The obsessive need to predict every betrayal is a pursuit of absolute safety. When you surrender the illusion of controlling the future, the heavy burden of hyperperception softens into a calm, reliable intuition. You will always see the hidden dangers, the micro-expressions, and the unspoken tensions. But mastery means choosing to engage fully in the present reality anyway, absorbing the experience without dissecting it. You can spend a lifetime scanning the perimeter for threats, analyzing the exact sharpness of every thorn. Or you can accept that the thorns are there and finally allow yourself to smell the flower.